everyone, it's Julia. Today I'm creating new fabric from my fabric scraps. I do a lot of applique work, and so I have a lot of itty bitty pieces of fabric, and I keep them sorted in bins by color. I have 3 bins. I have one with more of my pinks and oranges, and then I have another one with my greens and my blues, and then I have a third one with more of my neutrals, with my blacks and grays and cream colors and browns in it. And I'm going to insert a picture of my totes so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. When I get to a certain point where my these drawers don't even close anymore, I like to create with them. And I use a foundation piece first, and I put bits and pieces on top of it. And I'm going to show you my process. A lot of this I'm going to speed up, but I'm going to kind of explain what I'm doing a little bit first, and then also at the end of this video I'm going to show you several projects that I have created using my new piece of fabric. For each one of my creations, I do start with a foundation piece, and I start with about this size. This is like approximately 12 inches by 14 inches. I don't like to get any bigger than this because it's just a little bit too hard to work with underneath my sewing machine. And on top of the foundation piece is where I'm going to be building my kind of like a fabric collage of all my bits and pieces. I also use a lot of my trims. And I kind of have my trims sorted the same way as my fabric, where this is more of my pinks and my oranges, and then I have another bin with my greens and my blues, and another one with more of my neutrals. So I will be adding some of my trims to the top of this also. And I put like a lightweight fusible interfacing on the back side of my foundation piece. For the foundation piece, a lot of times I'll use just a muslin color, but you want something that's not super busy. These would work well for foundation pieces. This is just like a black with a little bit of a design in it. This one too would work as a wonderful foundation piece with, again, a black with just like a little colorful slub in it or so. Would work well for a foundation piece. Once I get all my little pieces on top, I will be adding a piece of, this is like a Solvay, and it's by the company Sulky, and it's like a stabilizer that completely dissolves in water. So once my little creation is done, I will be washing this, and then this top film will completely disappear. This film I cut the same dimension as my foundation piece. So I'm going to speed through this, and I'm going to kind of show you just how I'm building my creation. I will be taking this after it's all done, and after I put my little film on the top, I will be taking it to my sewing machine, and we'll be free motioning all over it and possibly adding some decorative stitches, and just kind of having a lot of fun with it and just kind of creating a new piece of fabric. One more thing I wanted to mention, you're going to see me removing like a white piece on the back side of this. This is heat and bond. When I do my applique work, I work with heat and bond, and so I will be removing all the paper and placing it so that the heat and bond is facing down on my fabric. And I think that's all the kind of explaining I need to do at this point, and you can watch me. Like I said, I'm going to speed through this part, and you can kind of see it's just going to be kind of a mess, but it's just a lot of fun. it's almost to where I want it now, and I'm going to be adding a few little words that I stamped just on muslin, and I stamped them using my Distress. This is a Tim Holtz, but this is the permanent mixed media ink palette, so it's permanent. And I also used some pigment inks in colors and stamped these little flowers. So some of the words, they say celebrate, sweet, dream, laugh. And I'm just going to scatter these, and it doesn't matter if they're upside down or which way they're going. I'm just going to lay these on here. And then put my piece of Solvay on top. And I'm going to be heading over to the sewing machine with this. Pinning first. And I'm just going to run a bunch of pins kind of just throughout, just to hopefully hold some of this into place to get it under my sewing machine. I wanted to show you my sewing machine. I am using my what I call my little sewing machine that I kind of take with me to places if I'm going on a retreat or if I want to sew at my little flea market shop. This is a sewing machine I use, and it is just a small Elna and very basic. There's a few utility stitches on it, but really nothing fancy. And you can do free motion with pretty much any sewing machine. You do have to disengage the feed dogs, and you do have to use some kind of like a darning foot, or sometimes they're called an embroidery foot. This machine did not come with one of those foots, but when I purchased my machine, the dealer that I was going through helped me pick out the right foot for like a darning foot so that I could do my free motion. And I'm going to show that to you a little up close. I'm going to move my tripod in a little bit. But I do want to mention that I am just using like a bobbin thread in the bobbin case, and bobbin thread is like a little bit thinner than just regular thread, and it works well when you're doing any kind of fancy stitching. It just seems like the stitches just lay a little bit better. And I'm just using thread that I had in my stash, and this is a 100% rayon thread, and it's like a pink color. And when I used to have a fancy embroidery machine, this was the thread. So it's like 100% rayon kind of embroidery thread. So I'm just kind of using like a fancy kind of thread on top. I zoomed way in so you can see what my foot looks like. It has a spring on the top on it, and it just kind of sits above my fabric. And I have so many different layers on this fabric, on this piece that I'm working with, because there's so many different layers of fabric. Some of the yarn is on top of different, some 3 or 4 different layers. So this spring kind of helps and just kind of keeps everything going through my machine. I do have my feed dogs dropped, and on this machine there's like a button back here that I disengage my feed dogs with, so they're down. And see if there's anything else I can tell you. I think that's it. You're gonna notice that when I start my stitching, I kind of go back and forth just a little bit. It's very subtle, and then I can just take off with my free motion stitching. I have a lot of pins in this piece, so you're going to see me just kind of stopping every so once in a while and putting my pins away. I'm just going to speed through this, and you can kind of just watch how I do my free motion. I have all the stitching done now, and you can kind of see my free motion stitching. It's just all over. You can see it on the back too. And now I kind of take a look at it and see if I want to add anything more. I still have this Soluble on the top, so the film is still on the top. This works so nice because to sew on, because nothing gets caught underneath my pressure foot. I'm able to really glide over it when I'm doing my free motion, even with all the strings and the fibers and all the pieces of little pieces. It really holds everything in place and holds it down. I kind of been digging through some of my stash, and I found this cording, and I think I might add some of this to the top of it. And I'm just going to sew it right on top of the Soluble. Probably either free motion it on, or maybe even do just a really tiny zigzag. And I'm also thinking about adding a decorative stitch. I kind of want to add a little bit more of just like a off-white or cream color, so I'll use my cream color thread. And because I have my utility sewing machine only and I don't have a lot of decorative stitches, I'm thinking I'm just going to probably just do a feather stitch and then just kind of meander stitch a feather stitch in here somehow too. So I'm going to go and do that, and then I'll be back and kind of show you what it looks like. I hope you can see some of my stitching. I did a little bit of the feather stitch. I also found, I think it's like a zigzag scallop stitch on my on this particular little utility sewing machine, and I kind of went over and around with that also, and then added the trim right on the top of the film, or the Soluble. I'm really enjoying how this turned out. I think it's going to be so fun to use in little projects. My next step is to take this to my sink, and I'm going to be just soaking it for a while in hot tap water, and then from there I'm going to throw it into my washing machine with a load of towels, and then into my dryer. I like to completely use my the hot water, the washing machine, and the dryer, because I want, if this is going to shrink and if anything on it's going to shrink, I want it to do it now instead of when I put it on a project, because I think I am going to use a little bit of this to embellish, just put a little embellishment on like a t-shirt or something. I haven't quite decided. I'm just gonna be creating with this, and I'm gonna show you some pictures of some of my finished projects. So I will be cutting pieces of this and using pieces of it in other craft projects. So I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope this gives you some ideas on how to kind of rework some of those scraps, and maybe just to start saving your scraps and putting them into bags or totes or whatever by color. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you later. Bye.